What was your most debauched deed? At a party, I stepped outside for a smoke and met a girl who was crying her eyes out because she had just broken up with her boyfriend. 10 minutes later, we were in an empty room upstairs, going at it like rabbits. I've always considered that to be my worst deed. The second most debauched thing I did was when I met a beautiful woman in her 60s at a hotel. We were there to celebrate my grandmother's 70th birthday, so all my relatives were gathered. This woman invited me to her room after we had drunk a lot, and she taught me a lot in bed. But damn, she was in such good shape and looked amazing for her age. Last summer, I accidentally bumped into my former neighbor at the beach. She was a very attractive woman. She was 42, and I was 20. I had grown up under her watchful eye, often mowing her lawn. I had always admired her from afar, but naturally, I never thought anything could happen. She had moved away when I was 16. After our encounter, she messaged me on Instagram. Maybe she couldn't find me anywhere else, I don't know, saying she was glad to see me and, I quote, "I hope this doesn't sound terribly inappropriate, but you have become quite handsome." The game was on. She picked me up in her typical mom car. We fooled around a lot. It was unreal. We still talk and send each other inappropriate photos, but we both agreed we should stop. Spent the night with the mother of a girl who had been pursuing me. Changed. This girl was initially a friend with benefits, but I broke up with her because she began to behave quite irrationally. For instance, she would come to my workplace, follow me when I left for work, keep an eye on me, constantly send messages listing everything she had done for me, and accuse me of cheating on her. Completely unstable. Her mother knew she was stalking me and decided to get to the bottom of it all because her daughter was telling her all sorts of nonsense about me. We had a few drinks, and it turned out she had quite the deep throat. The next morning I felt very awkward, to say the least, but damn, it was cathartic. Truth be told, I had been with this girl's mom several times, partly to get back at her crazy daughter. Actually, I'm not proud of this at all. Once a girl offered to give me a blowjob if I bought her cookies at McDonald's. The pleasure cost £1.07 sterling. Afterwards, I felt like a real degenerate. I worked in a supermarket from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. and I lost count of how many times I was offered a blowjob for a free pack of cigarettes. Changed. I remember several occasions when attractive women offered this. One time, as usual, late at night, she had two kids sitting in the car watching us talk through the large windshield about 3 meters away from us. Once, while playing GTA Online as a female character, some guy approached me and asked if I wanted to have some fun. I agreed and got into his car, as any reasonable person in my place would. He made me sit in front of him, ostensibly to enjoy myself, and began making suggestive movements towards me, accompanied by messages like, "Oh yes," and "nice." As awful as it sounds, he protected me from other players, brought me his new DLC cars to ride, supplied me with money for missions. I even made him take me to fast food joints for hamburgers and tacos, and only after that, I gave him what he wanted. 10 out of 10 would do it again. Thanks to him, I got my first good car. When I worked at the Renaissance Fair, I'm 24 now, was 18 then. I often had to flirt to boost sales. I flirted with a woman, about 25 years old, and she said she would buy something from me in exchange for a kiss. I leaned over the counter and kissed her. She bought $600 worth of lead figurines from me. In college, I slept with 4 guys who were brothers to each other within about a month. I usually only interacted with one of them. When I slept with the last one, he said, "I heard you slept with all my brothers." I decided not to do that anymore. They still have a sister, whom unfortunately I never met. My family, and my then boyfriend, went to another city about 3 hours away from ours. My Catholic family went to mass at a huge local church popular with tourists, and my boyfriend and I decided to wait for them in his car in the parking lot. Out of boredom, we started fooling around in the backseat while it was raining. 5 minutes later, my family came back. I gave my panties to some guys who asked for them at the club. They said it was for a bachelor party, right in the middle of the dance floor. My sister said, "Well, I'm in pants. You're in a skirt. Give them yours." I shrugged and immediately took them off. She was like, "Damn, you're brave. I thought you'd at least go to the bathroom and take them off there." For 5 minutes, I became the sluttiest girl in the club. During a long car trip, I matched with a girl on Tinder. I went to her and had a great time while my friend waited in the car. I was a bartender and told an old and not very attractive woman that I'd go home with her if she tipped well. I was 22, she was definitely over 50, and she gave me $200 in tips. I kept my promise. I was alone in McDonald's at 3 a.m. because that's the kind of loner I am. A girl came in, clearly coming back from a party, in a tight mini dress with bright makeup and barefoot, carrying her shoes. She came up to me and asked if I had chicken nuggets. I said no, but I could buy them if she wanted. 30 minutes later, we were sitting in the back seat of my car. She had my hose in her mouth, and she would occasionally stop her activity to eat nuggets. Have you ever been pleased while interrupting to eat nuggets? Very strange experience. When I got divorced, I was having financial problems. An elderly man in his 60s offered me $300 if I slept with him. Despite the 38-year age difference, he was quite attractive, and I hadn't had a man in months, so I agreed. It was amazing, plus I had money to pay the rent for a month. One evening during my college years, I was going to a party at my friend's apartment. I planned that I would get lucky with her that night. About 10 people gathered at her apartment, and as we were sitting on the couch, I put my arm around her. At that moment, I received a message from her roommate, who had gone to her room to order food on her computer. The message said, "Come to me." So I did. I entered her room. She closed the laptop and said, "We have 15 minutes until the food arrives." I said, "Okay," and we fooled around. Sorry, Katie. Once, when my roommate in the college dorm went away for the weekend, my girlfriend and I slept in his bed. I didn't plan to do that. We were just watching a movie on his bed when suddenly she started touching me. I washed all his laundry twice and made the bed again. The next day, he yelled at me for an hour because the bed cover wasn't properly made. I don't even want to imagine what would have happened if he found out what we actually did. I still feel guilty about it. I acted as a toy for 2 women in Bali. We met at a bar. They showed me the island in their car with a driver, and paid for the hotel stay. They said I just needed to fuck them when they wanted. It lasted for 4 days. Once, I created a character as an attractive girl in the game Perfect World and pretended to be a girl to get free stuff from guys. I barely lasted 4 days before the pervert factor became overwhelming, but I can't deny the results. I felt like a loose slut, but I made serious progress. A girl pleasured me in exchange for driving her home from work. She lived about 10 minutes away from work, and this went on for 2 years until she moved. Looking back, I was 18 at the time and I was fine with it. But now, when I think about it, I feel really awkward. What would you do in such a situation? A girl I hadn't met before messaged me, "Want to hook up?" At 2:30 a.m. when I had just returned home from a party. I called an Uber and went to her. I realized she didn't look at all like her photos, but I was drunk, so whatever. Called Uber again and went back home. It took 47 minutes in total. The worst part was when I was leaving. She asked if I wanted to go on a date with her. I thought she was joking and laughed. She looked down and said in a very disheartened voice, "Forget it, I wasn't really expecting much anyway." I felt really embarrassed about it. I had a girl who wanted to go somewhere with me and find another girl for a threesome. One evening we were in the city and met a cute blonde who was okay with joining us. Given how well everything was going, we decided to get a room at the nearest and quite expensive hotel. When I was paying for the room, the girl at the registration desk asked, "Will there be 3 people in the room?" Following her, I looked at the 2 girls waiting for me in the lobby and said, "Only if someone else joins us." She nervously chuckled and still came to the room at 1 a.m. I work for Uber. A not very attractive girl got into the car, who had just been ghosted on a date she had arranged on Tinder. She mentioned that she was definitely expecting a happy ending from him. I volunteered to replace him and ended up at her house. She turned out to be the female version of Randy from South Park. She worked in IT. Judging by her dwelling, she had a hoarding syndrome. Trash all over the house. Afterwards, she asked if she could tip me, or would that already be considered escorting? A solid 5-star ride. I traveled around the world for a year and played the flag game. A pretty simple game. You try to collect as many flags as possible, bargaining with the citizens of these countries. The less popular the country, the more points. Azerbaijan was the best. While on vacation, a very attractive girl started flirting with me at the bar. Unexpectedly, she mentioned that she was on vacation with her husband, and they were looking for a third, and invited me to their room. I left my friends at the bar and went with them. Her husband ended up passing out drunk. She made lines of prohibited substances on the table, and started complaining that she suspected her husband of cheating and showed me suspicious messages on his phone. In the end, I comforted her for a whole hour, then left for my room. And she didn't even share her coke with me. I flashed my pussy in a crowded bar and let people take pictures of me. I took off my blouse on the first date with my husband. I expected it to be a one-time date, but I didn't have any experience in this. I think my immature brain decided that if I showed him my tits, that would be enough to initiate intimacy. He looked at me worriedly, gave me another blanket, and fell asleep. I cried, felt like such a failure. I had just broken up with my boyfriend after 3 years of dating. Got drunk as hell at the bar, went outside to smoke, and saw a cool motorcycle. I asked a group of guys standing by the bar whose motorcycle it was, and one of them said it was his. I immediately sat on the motorcycle and told him, "Let's go." He handed me a helmet, and we went to his place. Everything was cool. But later I found out that getting on someone else's motorcycle without permission is considered rude. We were playing poker at the bar. Several girls expressed a desire to learn how to play. One of them sat next to me, and I explained the rules of poker to her. When she was playing with us, she asked, "What happens if I lose?" I was tipsy and decided to joke, "You'll pleasure me." As expected, she lost. I got my prize behind the dumpsters at the bar. My friends still recall this incident at least once a week. Be sure to subscribe to our channel to not miss out on new super interesting discussions.